And we're live, Terron and I, this time to discuss George Washington's farewell speech, which I have been trying to get more Americans to discuss this with me. And Terron, you are the first.
I'm glad to hear that. I feel honored.
Great. You're the first one who actually got around to reading it. So I'm so pleased, and and particularly as you're Muslim, you will maybe find I don't know, what did you think?
I think we kind of had a conversation about this before you went live. I listened to it. I did not read it for myself, but I tried to listen to it on audiobook off YouTube, and I really didn't digest it in the way that I probably should have.
Oh
So
right.
this
Well, we'll
might
probably have
actually
to
be
end the stream then.
no, 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 because then this is like a fresh reaction uh President George Washington's farewell address. So I think I can pretty much grasp it and have somebody like you who seem to be familiar with it kind of guide me along or expound on certain things that might not be clear to me.
Okay. So what do you remember of your audiobook experience of it? Was there anything that struck you in particular?
No, aside from you bringing it up, is the only thing that kind of made it of interest to me. I mean, even though I kind of been putting it on the back burner, not because I was uninterested, just being a little bit busy. The sole purpose why I'm interested in it at the moment is because you brought it up, and I know a lot of what you talk about has to do with SK and by extension the Quran. And so I'm interested in seeing what correlations you make between, if any, between what you have going in this farewell address, and also what I kind of believe in as well.
Well, today there was a stream by JTV, which is a Jewish channel, and it was boasting that America was created by Torah principles. And I thought, well, it's just as well that Tyrone and I are discussing this tonight. And, um, because I would say that it was America was established on Islamic principles. So, but it may not be clear to you if you haven't digested the details of the speech, because it is actually quite a complex speech talking about many things, and incidentally there's actually a very good Wikipedia entry on it, with all the headings and the different things that have been discussed. But for me, George Washington's most important point in his speech was when he said, "We must, with caution, indulge the supposition that morality can be maintained without religion." Do you remember that bit when he said that?
So he's saying that morality can be maintained without religion.
No, he was saying we must be careful. We must, with caution, indulge the supposition that morality can be maintained without religion. So I
So okay,
interpret
okay,
it to
yeah.
me that it can't. You have to use some sort of religion. You can't just rely on your common sense, because actually your common sense will be saying, will be you can basically justify anything. Giving some kind of reasoning, either in favor of you know going to war, not going to war, and treating your prisoners of war well, or torturing them, or there's always an argument for either side of doing what you should or shouldn't do.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? I think coming from George Washington, it means more than from, I'm not going to say any other contemporary of his, but just knowing his stance on religion, or I don't want to say his stance on religion, but my reading of George Washington is that even though he went to church, he wasn't really a religious man like that.
Well, he
But
wasn't a Trinitarian. I think that, that's a thing about the five founding fathers, which you know, they said, oh, they're not even Christian, they were Masons, and you know the whole thing, and then usually there's this added on that a kind of Jewish conspiracy thing, um, but I think you know they basically rejected the Trinity because it's so hard to believe.
that, but then from there, that goes into what I mean. Just because you reject the Trinity doesn't necessarily mean that or doesn't necessarily mean that the people who did that were monolith. Because then they broke into separate. Because then you might have the Thomas Jeffersons, who you could argue is definitely Unitarian or strict monotheist. But then you also have, I guess, other founding fathers or contemporaries of that time who were deists, and I think that's more where George Washington fell into from, if I understood what I read of him correctly. And that's why I said, hearing the statement that you said from him about that we shouldn't entertain the proposition that, or supposition that we can have morality without religion, is very interesting coming from him, being that, from what I understand, he wasn't all that religious, which goes back to a lot of what I think of concerning your position on religion, being that you call yourself an agnostic. I think if that's just to sum it up, I think I would much prefer people who are agnostic and atheists be like you rather than be the more hostile ones that we see now, seeing that, okay, I might not necessarily believe in all the mumbo jumbo or the fluff that comes along with religion, but I can definitely see its utility in running or sustaining a civil society.
Yes, I mean, I would describe my position as principled agnosticism, in that, you know, I do believe that we have to choose a moral system for our society, or have the situation that we have now, which is, you know, incompetent and corrupt politicians basically making the rules up as they go along and changing the rules anytime they feel like, changing the meaning of words until everything goes horribly wrong, and then stopping us from complaining.
Hmm.
And until nobody really knows what is right or wrong anymore, because there's so much to disagree about, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
When eh, oh no, sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
I suppose what I'm trying to say is also that, okay, you know what I propose, which is a one-party theocracy, and I'm not so naive as to think that once we have that, everybody will agree, because you know, the people will find something to disagree with, like, you know. Whether this verse applies to, you know, everyone or just to a certain group, or how to interpret a verse and how to apply the law, and you know, people will disagree even if they say they are the same religion, because you know, as we
Yeah.
know, from
But see,
European and
that comes
American
along
history,
with the
people will still go to war
canonizing.
with each other if there's, even if they're the same race and the same religion. Sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah, I was just probably going elsewhere with the conversation by bringing this up, but that just comes along with the institutionalizing of religion. And as long as it is institutionalized, I believe you're going to have these conflicts when religion, at least from an Islamic perspective, if you look at early Islam when it really wasn't institutionalized, um, different communities with varying beliefs interacted with each other in a more civil sense than what you see now. Even though I wouldn't say it's too, at least in the West, it's not too bad now, except for just the way people talk about the other. But anyway, again, I believe that's going elsewhere. But so we can go back to your point.
Yeah, and basically my point is that right now we have, you know, a lot of religions, a lot of political ideologies,
Yeah,
and even different interpretations of the same religion or the same political ideology, because you have, you know, liberals, the libertarian liberals, and the sort of statist liberals. For nationalism, you have civic nationalism, and you have ethno nationalism. There's sort of divisions within divisions, shall we say? So we have this problem of splintering, and this means that people can't really get it together to do anything. I mean, what
Mm.
I find is, having visited a
You
few.
know, Carol Quigley. I don't know if you know who Carol Quigley is. He wrote a book called Between Tragedy and Hope or something like that. But he put forth the idea that he's not against differing, having different parties, political parties, but he would have it to where the different political parties weren't too different from each other. So that way, when somebody came in the United States perspective, every 4 years, it wouldn't be such radical changes, every 4 to 8 years, like what you kind of see, at least from their talking points. What actually happens probably might all be the same thing, but at least from the on the outset, it seems like we have two very different parties, which
Yes,
has more confusion than anything.
yes, because the political classes used to be able to work with each other better. They kind of agree to disagree, and there'd be rules, and they wouldn't do anything particularly nasty to each other, or there were some rules and they would obey them. But now they've torn up the rule book with each other, right?
Yeah.
and and that kind of makes it more dangerous because they're going to be meaner to each other than they were before, and when they fight they're gonna use us, the ordinary people, as cannon fodder to fight their wars for them.
Yeah.
And I
And
suppose.
that's what I was trying to explain to my English coworkers when, they're mostly atheists and they were trying to run religion through the mud, saying that most of the wars were fought over religion. And I would say, maybe that's what they told your ancestors who were out in the fields with the plow in order to move them to go do some shit. But, the people up top really wasn't doing it for that. Maybe, I don't know,
Well, religion is a motivator
it's a
because.
motivator, yeah.
Yeah, because politics, it's difficult to explain to people who are not interested in it why they should go and fight and die in that war. Like, how are
Yeah,
you going to explain to some, working class or peasant, English person why they have to go and fight and die in the Crimean War? It's an imperial war, and imperial wars are notoriously difficult to explain to the people expected to die in it. So
exactly.
so you just say, well, for God and country, for king and country, queen and country, and all the buttons will be pushed.
Yeah. And Muslims might not like to hear it, but the Ottomans were no different. You know what I'm saying? So it was just how empires, like you said, how empires were ran. They got to have some type of narrative to get the masses at the bottom moving some type of way. So what
Yeah.
does it? Well, in the medieval period, what did it more than religion? Nowadays, you can't use religion to move people in that sense. So we're using other things.
Well, it can only be sort of, either love of one country, which is kind of more protective. So love of country, you fight a defensive war, and hatred of the other. It's like, oh, they're such terrible people, they're killing their own people, or whatever, and we must go and stop their evil nastiness and whatever, and therefore we have to invade them.
Mm.
So I think two separate emotions are being used, um, and, and to that end, um, I think like ISIS. I mean, there's been the suspicion that they were they're being used as mercenaries by America, basically, because during the when ISIS was being active, they were changing their name a lot. It was Al Qaeda and Al Nusra, and you think, why are they doing that? And I think it's because, like, America basically wanted ISIS to cease its activities in Iraq
No, no,
and
no, no. They
concentrate.
were just doing they split the these things start as one thing and then they have certain falling outs and then some people go their own way and those were all different groups that were at one point one, but because of different you know outlooks or where they want to take their terrorism. I don't know what they're doing. They separate from each other, and so it's weird because I was following that stuff back then, and but I do agree that the United States was using them
Yeah, I
for
think they had to use mercenaries because the Americans themselves were tired of fighting these foreign wars. I mean, after Iraq and the veterans coming back minus limbs and people didn't want to see that and they couldn't see the point of it. It's like Vietnam, it's like Korea, it's like why did we get ourselves killed over what? And it's hard to explain to
yeah,
ordinary people. Um, so the best motivator was actually to use mercenaries, which are actually very notoriously hard to control because once you give them the arms, it's like, well, we have, thank you very much for the weapons you gave us. We don't have to do anything you want us to do unless we feel like it, kind of
yeah.
thing.
And not to go into a history lesson, but you've seen this time and time throughout history where people try to use people as a proxy and it just blows up in their face. So,
Yeah, because the Romans used it, and in
the
fact
Persians
Machiavelli
used it.
actually said, we have to do our own fighting because if you pay somebody else to do it, it just won't be done well. They'll take a long time. It'll be very expensive, and then you know, so he warned against it in his book on advice, in the Prince. So,
Yeah, yeah, I used to
it's
be, I
like
used to
in the
be,
end, we have to do our own dirty work. We have to do our own, low class, low status job that nobody wants to do. Or,
really,
okay, you think you can, get immigrants to do it and then they come in and then they take over and then everybody's upset, kind
yeah.
of thing. And it's like, yeah, if you want to fight wars, you have to do it yourself too. And just
Yeah,
make
but
sure
also,
that people feel it's a worthwhile war rather than, feeling like cannon fodder.
I have to tell you, man, just because just what's been going on in my life lately, because I work for student accommodations, we moved students in the last couple months. And this is my second year doing it. Last year we had a all Polish team uh, who came in and cleaned the place phenomenally. Since Brexit, a lot of the Polish workers went home. We still had the same company come out to do cleaning, and they hired a bunch of locals, and they didn't do not even a quarter of the job that the Polish did last year. To where we had to hire another set of cleaners who were immigrants uh, to come out and finish their job.
Yeah. I mean, that is terrible because, it's like, it's a job of the government to make the working classes work. And if you can't even do that, you're just not doing your job as a government.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I think, although I think Brexit was good, I'm
In
fully aware it's
principle,
gonna sting. It's gonna sting for a bit.
yeah, yeah,
And
because you have to. I mean, the whole thing about immigration is that all these are leaders of anti-immigration parties. They never tell their own people. It's like, well, the government is importing cheap foreign labor because their own working classes are not fit for the purpose of work. That's why they do that. But they're also afraid of telling off the lazy workers because then they'll think, oh, they've upset me. I'm going to vote for the other party. So the politician, doesn't do that. Doesn't tell anybody off, and all the problem behaviour isn't addressed, and then democracy becomes this sacred cow that cannot be questioned when actually it's the cause of all these divisions. Because when you think about it, it really the class interest of all Western nations is just divided, between, well, patricians and plebs, just like the Romans were. in a way, the people who work with their hands and those that didn't.
Yeah, and it's
And
becoming more and more like that, especially in my area where I come from in California. You're either working tech or you're not, and you're just working, like a regular job. Not getting. So the dichotomy of having and the have and have-nots is definitely growing. Something similar to, I guess, the Roman days. I don't know too much about the history, but that's what people say. Yeah, like what you just mentioned.
yeah, yeah, but so the plebs would, if they didn't like the conditions, they would just leave Rome and leave the patricians to clean their own toilets and whatever, and
Mm.
that was how they kind of got their way until eventually it's like, okay, you can appoint a tribune and he can negotiate your working conditions, between the plebs and the patricians, and this whole thing about Moses leaving Egypt, has echoes of the Roman situation, because if you look up history in early Republican Rome, that was how the plebs, that was what they did. They just left the city, and until I guess some patrician begged them to come back. And I think that was what Moses was trying to do. I mean, he did. Well, he did actually do it, and said, "Well, we've had enough of these working conditions, Pharaoh. We're off to seek the promised land," and that was basically it. I mean, obviously, in those days they couldn't go on strike, right? So the only way they can,
He's just gonna leave.
yeah, they just left.
Man, we've come a long way.
Yes. And
Now,
unfortunately, we made the Poles leave with our Brexit.
now, hey, the way the way the British workforce is, man, you can have somebody on the job not doing the job, and the employer is scared to fire them,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
can't
because
fire.
of the stupid, employment protect. So everything has got to change, and I think unfortunately we might just have to, bring back slavery again, just to make people work.
That's because a lot of black people are traumatized, and by extension, for black people, a lot of people are traumatized by slavery. That's a hard sell. But
No, but I mean the thing is, it's
but
like it's not
hey,
just black
hey,
people who've
some
been,
some some people some people do need to go into slavery, though. I'm telling you.
But it's
I
the
don't.
best form of workfare, because I know that there was this thing called workfare, right? It's like, we're not just going to give all these lazy, good for nothings welfare, not work, and not make them work for it. And then they have this idea that we're going to make them do stuff, but that their work was so terrible and it was just such a big job at getting them to even turn up to work. That they just gave up the whole idea. Yeah, you just get your unemployment benefit, and you stay home and watch TV or whatever, because it's too much work to
I
supervise you,
can
even
I
make
can
you
see
get your
them saying
promotions.
that to the cleaners that they hired to come out and clean the student accommodations, because the job they did was like, dude, you're just better off taking this check every month and leaving us alone. You're,
Yeah.
you're, you're, worse- you're doing more, you're doing more harm than good. Oh man, they totally messed us up.
Right.
We're still paying for it today. They're paying for it. I ain't paying for nothing, but
Uh,
uh, yeah. But anyway,
yeah.
so yeah, I know, man. We really do need to push a hard line. The way where society is going,
And the only
like,
way to do it is through a one party state, because if the political establishment are fighting each other, then obviously their divisions will be exploited, and,
but
and and
don't you
I
see
know it's
why
a
that?
kind of sacred cow thing that they don't want to have a one party state, but I think saying that George Washington all those centuries ago said you know not a good idea. Let's don't do it. It'll cause divisions, and he actually said that in his speech, and that was the kind of thing that I wanted to focus on. And also the Quran also says do not divide your religion into sects, and rejoice in your own doctrines. So I would say that the Quran would support a one party state, and
Would that's yeah. It it's difficult because and I've heard different interpretations of that. you know, even just I guess that's what we were just talking about, different interpretations. That's the problem. But yeah, I don't think different sex. I don't like to say sex though. I'd rather say school of thought
Mm.
because we're not all gonna think the same.
Well,
You know,
factions, they're sort of bound to be factions within the same party. I mean, I do understand that, but at least it's sort of fluid. So once a problem is passed, um, okay, we could be in the same party, and let's say we disagreed about Brexit, and
but
then,
you know what though, Claire, these sects in Islam are more political than they started off political. And because then these groups separated based on politics, and then their separation caused them to bore different, somewhat different theologies. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really interested in how sectarianism really came about in religion, and was it doctrinal or was it politics? And then doctrine was just a consequence of political separation, being away from each other, and coming up with different uh ways or modes of understanding the
yeah,
same
I'm
doctrine.
sure it must have been, a bit of each. I mean, the Shia Sunni divide. Why
Was
did that
politics.
happen? I mean, yeah, I'm sure it really wasn't about, the inclusion of Ali and all that. There was a real political purpose behind this, you know, Shia Sunni divide, wasn't there?
Yeah, I believe so, because even when because Ali, from what I've read of the Shia side of history, Ali felt slighted from the jump, that Abu Bakr and Umar became caliph, and he kind of didn't participate too much in the political affairs of the caliphate at that time. But even then, and there were other Sahaba, senior companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, who didn't agree with Abu Bakr and Umar, or Abu Bakr being caliph after the Prophet's death, such as Bilal. You always hear about Bilal a lot when they like to talk about famous black people in Islam, Bilal. So, but it still wasn't enough to cause people to fight and kill each other like what you seen when Muawiyah and Ali had their beef, or even before that, Talha and Zubair had, anyway. So,
Mm-hmm.
so even when Ali didn't get the caliphate after the Prophet's death, still wasn't fighting like what you seen later on. So I definitely don't think it was solely because of that why these groups, Shia and Sunni, are where they're at today.
Hmm. But I suppose, I mean, as individuals, or even fashionable individuals, we just want to put a little twist on it to assert our individuality. Wear our hat a certain way, or roll our sleeves up. But people kind of they feel they like to be somehow a little different from all the others, and maybe nations do that too. Like they people everybody wants to feel special and different.
Yeah. No, no, true, true. And that's why when you was asking me about this ADOS thing, why separate, why cause a separation? But I was thinking the whole time, like, I don't really see Black Americans as well, and Caribbeans and Africans, we don't all, when we get past this skin color thing, we all don't see each other as the same. We all don't have the same interests, don't have the same shared history. We're very different people. And if you understand American politics, at least with the influx of more African immigrants coming in and then gaining citizenship, being able to identify as African American, and then by extension be have certain opportunities that were set up for the American descendants of slavery, by just because they have that name. It kind of muddies the water, and that's why I
Mm.
think a distinction needs to be made just based on people getting what is due to them. Because we've, again, other places, we've seen what happened when you don't make clear distinctions, or define how you want to go about these things. I'm not going to waffle on because
Well,
this is
no,
just
I do. I think Ann Coulter kind of said something to the effect of, you know, um, yeah, we are a kind of biracial country, and maybe white people do owe something to the black slaves of.
No, it seems I think
But
that's
but but
that's the
not
wrong
to
way.
everybody who's come in from Asia. I do remember her saying that.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, yeah, no, or LBGT and people coming from yeah, all that, and I believe that that is true. That a lot of other groups have benefited off the backs of what Black Americans fought for during the civil rights. But
Mm.
it's not, and I don't want people to think that it's white trying to get something from white people. It's not trying to get anything from white Americans specifically. It's from the government. It's the government who did this, and it's the government that needs to pay. And for me, and from what I've talked to a lot of African Americans, Black Americans, ADOS, they it's not really about reparations, but making that distinction and saying that we have our own interests separate from Caribbeans and Africans who moved to the United States, and that we don't want them speaking on our behalf under some flat blackness, which, if you look into it, kind of placates or go or buys into the stereotype that Europeans try to assume about people of African descent, that we're just one big Negroid having the same interests, stand ways of behavior, and all this other type
Yeah,
of
yeah. I
things.
suppose it's a kind of pecking order in terms of a first arrival. It's like we arrived off the boat a long, long time ago, and you've just arrived, and
No,
therefore
well,
whatever.
we helped. I think, and one thing I'm starting to notice, being a Black American living abroad, is that a lot of other minorities in this world see America the same way that they look at Europe or something, like it's a white ancestry country or something like that. But Black Americans have had a huge hand in the building of the United States. I mean, even the United States flag, a Black girl had a hand in making that flag. So the Black Americans have been present in the United States. I mean,
Yeah, and you
for
fought in the
every
Civil War
we were
on
at the
both sides.
founding.
Even was it on
We're
both sides?
indigenous. We're, yes, on both sides. We had slaves. I mean, there's a book by George. We had Black Americans had slaves. We parted. That's why it's the American descendants of slavery, because on both because people who not only slaves but people who participated in it as well. Because blacks did, it's look, we did everything in the United States just like anybody else, man. That has been there just as long as us, and a lot of the people who are there who would classify as white have only been there like the last 150 years, such as Italians, Polish, a lot of Southern Europeans, Eastern Europeans, and stuff like that. Where blacks have been there way, or African Americans have been there way, way longer than them. I know for a fact my family, tracing them back from North Carolina, have been there way, way. I mean, I even know the guy who, or know of the guy who owned the plantation that my family, um, he's from England too. But yeah, so, but yeah, anyway, I'm not gonna. I was gonna go on a tangent about that, but yeah, yeah, no, that's so. I don't know how we got here. So going back to George Washington.
Oh, I think we were talking about
Um,
workfare, weren't we? And how it might be
oh yeah, yeah,
necessary to
yeah, yeah.
revive it to
Immigrants
make everyone pull their
and
weight.
yeah, no, no. I think so. I think a lot too many people are milking the system. And I'm not. I don't like to say who should get what from social services and whatnot, but I can guarantee that not all these people should be getting what they're getting. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of putting on going on to just get a check when really you could work. I mean, I know people. I know people on. Again, I'm not trying to. If you can milk the system and play the system, work smarter, not harder. I understand. You know what I'm saying? But at what cost though? Do you especially if you have children, you got to live in this society. At what cost do you want to milk the society to where you're running it down?
Oh, and,
So
and, and governments should, be, I don't know, making. making things better, making, if savings and efficiency and everything, but they don't seem to care. It's like it's
No,
somebody else's money.
and then they don't promote the type of structure that people could depend on when they're in an effed up situation. I don't have it all like that, but being that I come from a family that at least thought about having something for their family. Yeah, I come from a decent family, and you know, I'm able to ask for help from not only one person or two people, but there's many people I can go to get help from before I can go to the before I have to go to the government. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think because a lot of people nowadays don't have that type of family structure like majority of people used to have. I'm not a mysterious case or anything like that, but more and more people don't have that structure where they can depend on people.
And, and,
They
and
have to
so
go
the
to the government
government should encourage it, but apparently they're not up to doing that sort of thing anymore.
because they want us to be dependent on them so they can snatch the tit whenever they want and leave us high and dry. Or in order for us to act right, they can set cut us off and all type of stuff. That's why, and I really believe I don't even think that the government is like on some sinister shit. I believe the government is doing exactly what it's going to do when people act like this. And if people acted differently, the government wouldn't be like that because we wouldn't, we basically, but the government is acting exactly how we're letting it, like, okay, you want to depend on me, this is what, anyway, I'm just maybe I'm reaching in what I'm
Well,
saying, but
it's kind of a chicken or egg situation. So, but I mean, the leadership should always begin from from the top, because you
I
can't
agree.
expect the person right at the bottom to do anything. But there is no leadership from the top either, because either they're afraid of each other or they just don't care. Or they don't think they can do anything that they think they can do is just pretend to govern us and claim whatever income they're entitled to claim or
What's that?
get
What's
whatever
that?
bribe they can get.
There's a saying I heard from Sam Gearns that really stuck with me that I'm not against the elite. I'm not against there being an elite class, but they need to practice that noblesse oblige. What's that? What's
No,
that? They
no,
need to show
noblesse
some,
oblige.
yeah, noblesse oblige. They need to practice that. You know what I'm saying? They need to show some type of responsibility towards to the small to us little people at the bottom.
So
You
we,
know,
we have to acknowledge that they are kind of, they have a status above us. It's like there's this sort of logical thing that you can't get round. It's like, if we want them to act right and better than us at the bottom, then we have to logically and necessarily say they are in a class above us. But if our minds are clouded by ideas of egalitarianism, then we'll be saying, who are you to tell us what to do? So we, I guess.
I believe in a hierarchy. See, that's the thing, and I don't necessarily believe I recognize when somebody is, and I'm for putting the best people in the right positions, not this, you know, because we all got to be equal. I gotta put somebody who look like such and such in here, even though he's not as good as such. And like, no, man, screw all that. We're
We
I'm not
want a
trying to.
meritocracy.
I want to, yeah, meritocracy. The only problem I have with elite class is when they're fixed. And that's the problem I have here, what I see in Europe, or at least here in England, is that I don't know how fluid upward mobility, I'm not going to say upward mobility, but how fluid, moving up and down
I don't
class.
know. It's almost become a caste system because the education is so crap. I mean, the only thing even poor people of India is that they see the value of education, and they know that the only way out of poverty is to educate your children well so they can get good jobs and support their parents, blah blah blah. And if we have crap education, the working classes won't even do what they're supposed to be doing, which is to work or clean, as you were saying earlier. But the government doesn't care. It's like really low standard school leavers who can't read or write or count, and they don't
I heard
care.
once upon a time the working class prided itself in being educated here in England.
Yeah, they
You know,
have
I don't.
grammar schools, and now for some ideological reason, they're not allowed to open anymore. There should be
And
one
see
in
that,
every borough.
and that's more what I'm on. Not the grammar school. I mean, yeah, we need it because a lot of they don't even really teach grammar in school anymore. But I'm more of look. If I have no problem being working class. I have no problem working with my hands. I enjoy working with my hands. That doesn't mean I'm poor, and it does not have to mean that you're stupid. That you can read very sophisticated books, very technical books,
It's quite
whatever.
satisfying to work with your hands anyway, to
It,
create
I
something.
believe so, and you can still indulge in other intellectual curiosities you have. It doesn't stop, especially nowadays. It's not like it's one or the other. You can do both. I mean, even if you're a super esteemed intellectual at some university, you can still even go and work with your hands if you like. You know what I'm saying? There's no reason why you have to be stuck doing just because you do something for work in order to provide yourself doesn't mean that other things are not open to you for you to enjoy as a pastime, such as reading or writing or poetry, whatever. So I'm more for an enlightened working class. You don't have to be beer drinking buffoons. You know what I'm saying? Just because you're working class. But anyway, that's just my idea.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying that there's nothing inherently virtuous about being born middle class or working class. Both are needed to make your society work. So I don't see why there should be some fake ideological fighting every election to say that one is better than the other, and that's why a one party system would make more sense, and which would actually make it easier to um, solve problems, or make politicians more likely to want to solve the problem, because I think the education system is not being dealt with simply because it's the politicians have basically thought, well, if I wanted to sort out this problem, it'll take over more than a term of office, and if I do, there'll be teacher strikes and so much trouble, and then the other lot will just get the benefit of it. So I'm not going to bother, and that's why it's never sorted. That's why it's getting worse and worse, because they're actually afraid of criticizing anyone in case they don't vote for them, right? And
Yeah, no.
um, and then you have this sort of sacred cow of democracy, where politicians don't want to be accused of being fascist for questioning, you know. So
I know, I know.
so
But
and the media are they're not discussing anything that's they're actually suppressing the news, distorting the news, not analyzing it and not reporting it. So
but you know what? We're doing our own form of self-censorship on our own selves. I think we put too much blame on the media as far as not conveying the truth. But I've been I've been frequenting a few discords lately, and people ain't no different than the media. The average person ain't no different than the media and how they like to spin things and not accept certain things and
tell
act,
lies and ignore
so.
truths.
I think the media is just a representation of who we are as a people. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
and they
saying?
think they can get away with it, because you can't make me concede that I've lost the argument, so I'll just carry on as before.
Yeah, and that's why, Claire, I was telling you about the whole debating thing. You just need to go in enforcement mode. If you have an agenda, push it. No debate. Because what's the point? I spent if I'm on Facebook, I didn't went back and forth with you, 240 comments. You still don't. And sometimes they end up blocking you after all of that. It's not worth it. And then I've seen people argue on one platform, get stumped with their argument non-void, then they go to another platform with that same argument, trying to get it passed on unsuspecting listeners. You know what I'm saying? So, or people who don't know any better, and it's just bogus. I think the people, if you're really pushing a legit product, the people people will gravitate towards it. You don't have to debate and try to convince it because
Well,
I
I,
don't think it.
well, I don't know. I think in a way, it helps to, you have to fight these fights. It's like, you want to be heavyweight boxing champion of the world. You
True,
you have to,
true,
go and fight all these people. Um,
true.
and I suppose it's about how you regard being removed from a group or being blocked. And if you think, well, actually, if they blocked me, it means that they understood what I was saying and they've
True.
lost. And,
Yeah.
I
But
guess
then,
it's.
but see, when it's when they don't block you, it's like people keep commenting because the unsaid rule that whoever stops commenting first lost. So it's a never. It's
Well,
one or
well,
the other.
I don't think it's even true in that we don't know if somebody else is reading it, and if they read it, whom they would agree with, because a lot of political discussion is being listened to by people that we will never meet, whose presence we will not be aware of at all. When you talk, if you were ever okay, somebody else, not now watching, will might watch it and might hear or understand and share or regurgitate what they heard or whatever. And I suppose that the idea, I think, is to make it fun for people, so
Hmm.
they want to do it, and to make the rules clear, so you can immediately discover who has won the argument or not. And I think that the problem at the moment is that you know two people can have a heated political discussion and both will leave each other thinking that they've won the debate. And so the structure for this kind of thing could be, you have a moderator or you have some rules for determining who won the argument. And it can't just be, because I agree with whoever, I'm going to say they won even though they didn't. That there has to be objective criteria. And I suppose this is the kind of idea about how to work out who won a debate. And in the
Yeah, but you
olden
would have to
days,
organize
they
it
had
in a
those
sense.
rules.
I think you would have to organize something like that in a sense to where people can actually come and really lay out their argument and bring receipts. Because if it's spontaneous, I really don't think that you're going to have an objective. Even, I'm not going to say you're not going to have an objective debate, but I'm going to say it's going to be a lot more messier if it's spontaneous.
Yes. So you need a proper title, because I've been to these old fashioned debating societies, and that there's a proposition, there's a proposer, there's an opposer, and there's a certain way of talking. You speak of your opponent in the third person, which may be a bit too formal for people, and if you speak about somebody in the third person, you're not going to get angry with them. Otherwise it's like, you Terron, you blah 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 blah. And so you talk about I don't know the honourable member, or what it's kind of parliamentary conventions. To keep things under control, so you don't end up swearing at them and calling them liars and whatever. Um, and then people can discover, and there's also a way of flowing the argument, so you can chart, he made this argument, and A made this argument, B responded to the argument by saying whatever, and how was it resolved, and I guess that would be the way of conducting these things. And I think we're just so degenerate, we don't know how to do it anymore. and
I would agree to that. I would agree with that definitely.
But I mean, the flowing of arguments I didn't really hear about until Duvid was going on about it, and because he anyway, I looked it up, and I think I've got the gist of it, or at least just looking at the transcript, and said he said this and she said that, and how it's like there is a kind of logical progression to the argument, and then you can see, oh, somebody's lying, somebody's deflecting or whatever. um, and I think it would reward people to actually get a transcript of any discussion, and just work it out.
Hmm.
Anyway, that's what I'm trying to do. um, but maybe a lot of people think it's too boring to do. But or maybe they just don't care. It's like, well, what does it matter anyway, kind of thing. But I do
Yeah,
think it
yeah, yeah.
matters.
But I think it's always best to just put it out there and let other people decide. Because I get that feeling. Shit, even with the things I do, I'd be like, man, what's the point sometimes? But just keep trekking on, and you'd be surprised because the people it reaches. And sometimes even kind of reinvigorate you to continue. Or to keep going or to restart, whatever. So yeah, about this George Washington address. Uh, Before I forget, because I we talked about so many other things that seem to have something, or I hope have something to do with this address. Because I'm still curious on what it's about. I'm
You'll have
surprised
to
that the
read it.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So okay, I thought we were going to read it here.
Oh,
So
oh, you
this I
mean
guess,
we read it together? It's quite long, so I was
is it long? It's only like a page. It's two. It's like 1.5 pages. Oh, it's abridged. I got the abridged version. That's why. Okay, never mind. That's right. We can reconvene. We can reconvene, and I'll check it out and let you know what what it is, what I think about it. I've just been so busy reading other
yeah,
things, and I have you know upcoming uh interview on the 5th that I'm
yeah.
trying to.
Oh
And
right.
then,
Well, yeah. I mean, good luck for it. But the Wikipedia has actually a very good summary of it, and maybe if you read that, then it would make the reading of the actual speech easier.
okay. See, I was under the. I would have read it before I came on if I had known that I was supposed to have like prior knowledge. I thought that we were gonna go over it and you were gonna break it down on this live stream.
Oh,
So,
I mean, I have done it in previous streams, but and I was just sort of hoping for your input on it to maybe say if you hear if you detected any Quranic echoes in the speech and you know you being a Muslim and everything, that or is it just my imagination? I mean, I don't know. Um, but that was what and I don't think you'll be able to do it if you haven't read it with some um, thoroughness. But
okay,
we can
okay.
always sort of do it another time.
No, no, no problem. I plan on live streaming more. I think this might have been the first live stream I've been on in a very long time, besides my own that I
Uh,
did recently. But I just haven't had the time, man. And also I kind of got sad. I hated all the arguing on these live when I first started live streaming. It was very fun talking, getting idea, hearing different perspectives. But you start seeing the same people over and over again, and
Hearing them
some
say the
people,
same thing again and again.
yeah, and then you get a sense that some people are just fucking trolling, and all the voice synthesizers and the
Mm-hmm.
fake names and the
Mm-hmm.
doxing, and it's like, damn, man.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I sort of feel that I want to know somebody well enough to think we will come to this subject, and I know how you're going to react. You're going to say this, and I'm going to say that, and that you kind of then I think, oh, I've got to know this person properly now because I can predict their behavior in maybe the same way a spouse or family member can when they hit a particular, I don't know, sore
Mind you, it's
spot.
not all bad. I'm not gonna act like this thing is all bad. You actually like you're one of the people who I think, yeah, I believe I can have a genuine conversation. You're gonna tell me exactly. It's not like no script. You're not no character on this thing. You know, it's just I can't stand people who put on this character when they come on, and they might be sharing real sentiments, but I don't know, man. It's just this. But anyway, I have real engagements with people on here too, so I'm not gonna act like it's all
Mm,
bad because
yeah.
obviously I keep coming back and doing this myself. So
Yeah, I think if we just aspire, we will find better people to have, constructive conversations with. And and not be. I mean, I know there's a lot of mentally ill people or malign people around, and And what I've noticed is that a lot of people just like hearing the sound of their own voices, and they don't care if they talk nonsense. So yeah, watch out for those people.
I know, and that's one thing that I try to be careful about is that you're right. Some of these people, hey, we are in an age where surprisingly things are easier for us. We have the standard of living is way higher than it's ever been for the average person, but people are more depressed and lonely than they've ever been. And so,
Mm,
I keep that in mind when I come on these things that I might be dealing with somebody who's like that, and that I
mm,
should be a little bit more uh, gentle, I guess, or
mm,
try not to egg on some of these people because they might really be coming on here because they're who knows, I don't know,
mm,
but and I don't want to contribute to whatever they got going on, trying being getting triggered or in my own feelings.
mm. Yeah, do you find that the format for YouTube is sort of you get slightly less crazy people on YouTube than you do on Discord, or not? Do you think people are saner on Discord or saner on YouTube?
I believe people are saner on Discord depending on the nature and size of the Discord. I think the Discords, I was on a Caribbean, African, Black American Discord, I thought was pretty fruitful.
Mm-hmm.
There was decent conversations. Some of the people on their frequent G Block and or Valley Vision, whatever, and they have different and they had a different energy when on G Block on YouTube, but then when you got them on voice chat in Discord, they had a very different energy. I believe Discord chats and conversations are more personal than
Mm-hmm.
say something like Facebook or YouTube.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I mean, I suppose for the stage shows, okay, for YouTube, at least you can put a title on your stream, and then you can maybe stick to the subject or not stick to the subject. But for Discord, people just sort of it's some vague subject, and lots of different people come on, and sometimes the conversation can get quite crazy, and so I guess eventually I still seem to come back to YouTube because I just get I guess I like the format, the live chat and the comments afterwards, so you can it's still preserved, if you know what I mean. Um,
Yeah, you mean YouTube.
yeah.
Yeah, I do. I still rate YouTube higher than Discord, no doubt, because of everything you just mentioned. It's a place where unless I delete something, or it's taken down for whatever reason, offensive, whatever, community guidelines, strike, whatever. It's documented. It's not going anywhere. Whereas I could put something on Discord. It could be a really good conversation. We can have a really good conversation in the VC. It's not documented. If
Mm,
the owner of the Discord wants to delete the whole Discord, whatever might have been talked about that was a fruitful conversation in the text
mm,
uh, channel, is gone. So, whereas I still go back on some comments. Same thing with Facebook. I still go back and look at some comments I wrote to responding to somebody and just copy paste to respond to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? So
mm.
it kind of helps me. It saves a lot of time, but yeah. Anyway, that is the downside of Discord. You can't. It's not as documentary as we might think.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they will have slightly different advantages and whatever, but I guess we just sort of practice propagating our message, whatever it is, and maybe get better at it.
Yeah. I think really what it is you need to build, instead of this whole debating thing, you really need to build a network of like-minded people. Even if you're not on the same page belief-wise, there's still, if there's something, try to find something with people of like a similar outlook, and try to network and help each other build in that sense, instead of the whole trying to find conflict with others and I can outwit you, or I know more about this than you, and we're just gonna argue back and forth all day about just, yeah, again, just At least for me, I think that's where things are moving towards right now. I think soon the whole debate, the polemic, uh, the doubt, all of that, I think is gonna come to a halt soon, or just not become that popular. And it's gonna be more so like people want to hear good, productive conversations that they can actually come away with something. Uh, with whereas debate just leaves you kind of confused, especially if you're not knowledgeable about what they're talking about anyway. It's like, damn man, both you guys, you know,
Just slow
sound
down and explain your terms. And I think that's what I try to do. I mean, I try to think of, what somebody listening might think about what we're saying,
yeah.
and slow it right down, because a lot of people just like to use words, long words, and show off and not care if anybody understood,
Yeah, like
which means they're
say it
just
how you
wasting their
would tell
time.
your grandmother. You know what I'm saying? She don't know. My grandmother don't know none of all the philosophical. She don't. She wouldn't even probably can't say the word. So I gotta break it down for her to understand. And that's how I think you need to break it down for the average person, the lowest common denominator. All this fancy word salad, it don't. All that's not even popular no more. I think being concise is what's in. Because even now, I don't even want to read a whole bunch of stuff on Facebook. If you can write something, if you can put in three, I try to put what I need to say in three sentences. If I can't put it in three, I don't even think I might want to write it.
Yeah,
But
that's such a good rule that you just said. That yeah, you should be able to explain even a complicated idea in 3 sentences, because at least you know it will be read, right?
yeah,
The whole
exactly.
paragraph
No,
of it.
I've had people straight up. I used to do the long, especially when I was in uni, and I really started to get like feel like I was developing some writing skills. Man, if you look at my old Facebook, I used to write essays on fucking. I use all the characters on fucking, excuse me, on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? Where I couldn't, I had to write part one, and then part two. But then somebody I asked him, "Hey, did you? How come you didn't read my last post? Why are you responding like?" He was like, "Man, I don't read all that shit."
Yes.
I was like, and then I started hearing more and more about that. I got the feeling like, you know what? People really don't. People not gonna sit and read it, of what and how does and like of what benefit does like why would they sit and read? And it's not even like something they have to do. They're not getting no grade. It's not even something they probably want to read about. Have not interested in. So yeah, but somebody, if they're not interested, just scrolling by, if just because of who you are, they might, if it's a couple sentences, they might, yeah, they'll read it, and you might grab them based off of that. So, but when people will see that you got to hit see more, it's like, I don't know about all this.
Yes. And often there's no need to go on like that anyway. You know,
No,
you
no, I
really
think that's
can
why
sum it
Twitter,
up in a sentence, and that's what you should do anyway.
and I think that's why Twitter is so effective. To be honest, like, I use Twitter just like you said. I think we should use the platform. I use Twitter purely to see what academics in Islamic studies are talking about.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Most of the people I follow are just academics in Islamic studies, and I think because they're limited to so many characters. Uh,
They will all get read, and that's why it's such a powerful platform, and that's why
exactly,
I was
exactly.
deplatformed from it, and that's why there was such a conspiracy to basically destroy Parler,
Mm. Oh
because
yeah, you're not. Yeah, yeah.
a rival
Twitter's
Twitter would be
weird though.
very
Twitter's weird.
powerful.
You can put all kind of naked pictures and porn on Twitter, but you say certain things against certain groups or against what's popular.
Mm.
There you go. We live in a very strange world.
Well, I mean, the governments are basically getting social media platforms to be their thought police. And Facebook are saying, we have the technology, our algos are better than anyone else's, and we will zap any hate speech, faster than any of the other platforms, whatever, I guess. And
They're playing games with that though. They're playing games with that because I've seen certain speech allowed to kind of like stir certain sentiments up, and then all of a sudden it becomes banned. And I've seen speech that I don't know, man. I think they're just we're in some fucking experiment, man. That's really what we need right now. And you gotta like confuse your algorithms on Facebook in order to really use the platform properly. You gotta like type in My Little Pony in the search engine and then type in like Freddy Krueger. Just confuse the shit out of it because for real, you can't because otherwise, it's I don't I and you know what I noticed about Facebook too? Because I tried to like stay off of Facebook a little bit. It starts sending you notifications about what other people are doing. If you're not putting your business on Facebook, it's trying to put you in other people's business. It literally sends me notification, such and such shared, such and such commented on. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, you know, then when you start engaging more on Facebook, all that stuff goes away because now, so, I see the game Mark Zuckerberg is playing, man. He's not fooling nobody.
He's getting us hooked. I mean,
He's
that
getting
is
us.
the whole idea of these, so and so posted or whatever, to get you to look and rejoin the party, so to speak.
Yep. Sending you all kind of, man. We live in a very, this is, I see why people have to die, because you get to a certain point, you can't keep up, like I can imagine, I, I just hope I don't have a heart attack when I get old enough that this world just ain't too crazy, like shocking to where I just drop dead on what I'm witnessing. Because, I was talking the other day, like pre social media, smartphones, what were people doing? People had to go to work and just sit there and either work or not play spades on your computer or something like that. Uh, what when you
Maybe
went?
they had time to think things through without being constantly distracted by, pointless notifications. You know, maybe in those days, well, they did, read a whole book, without being constantly interrupted.
Oh my God, Claire? Have you read a book and started scrolling up on it like that?
I am afraid I'm just too distracted to read properly, or if I have, I just sort of have to, put the whole day aside, you know, because the phone is just so seductive.
I know it's so convenient. I'm so mad that I can read more off of my phone than I can read in a book. And I read a book about that called The Shallows, the remapping of people's brains or some shit like that, and how you know uh, this new technology is changing the way that we're not going to be able to go back to doing some things, or it's going to totally change the way that we used to do certain things. One example they gave was reading with these smartphones. That they've done studies that the more engagement or more reading you do from on these smartphones, the harder and harder it is for you to sit down and read a book.
Yeah, because
So
we'll just want to scroll rather than turn the page, a real page, you know.
at least once a day, I scroll up on a book. I'm telling you, at least once a day.
Mm.
It's like it's second nature. Uh, but yeah. I mean, well, it's a crazy, crazy. I remember when smartphones first came out, I was against them too. I was like, this is not gonna catch on. You got to use your fingers. What the hell is this? And I was wrong. I didn't think. Oh man. Same thing with the automated the grocery the self checkout. I was like, this is not gonna catch on. People don't want to go through the line and talk to the grocer no more. And now I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
so unnatural because I think a lot of shopping used to be, yes, you do want to talk to somebody as you go shopping, and you know
yeah, I
and
kind of
have a
want
few
somebody.
exchanges with them as he cashes up your whatever.
Exactly, exactly. And now they're taking that away from us. Further, more and more ISIS. I mean, I really think that they're trying to isolate us in a certain. And I think some of these social media platforms are a catalyst in doing it. I think because we feel comfortable talking like this, we're satisfied not to go and really engage with people on a real basis.
Oh
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah. That you make such an excellent point because you know a lot of therapy is self-expression. So if we've just sort of said a whole bunch of things to somebody we don't know, we know that's it. We feel better now. But we don't actually talk to people who know our names, whose names we know. So we don't actually effect political progress or develop the argument, because we think just by posting a few things online, we think we've made our
We did our
point.
job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but actually nobody heard, nobody cared, you know. Unless you gave your real name, because that gives added authority to whatever you were saying. But if used your fake
No, definitely.
avatar, nobody cares what
And
you
and
said.
I agree. That's why I wonder if this social media it's working against us in a way that people think they're sharing information, but back in the day when you wanted to share information, you really had to pound the pavement. You had to get out there. There was no if you just sat in the there was no sitting in the comforts of your own room and sending out all type of tweets and you really had to put your neck on the line. You had to get out there, sometimes spend your
Stand
own
on
money.
street corners on your soapbox or hire
Yeah,
halls to make
you had to
speeches.
borderline look crazy in order
Yeah,
to get your message out there.
yeah.
Back in the day, now you can, okay, I tweeted free Palestine. Yep, I did my job. Uh, talked about, and I feel like that sometimes. Sometimes I feel like, damn man, I'm so weak right now. I'm just talking about this shit. I can't really. I'm not. It's just me talking. I'm not doing anything really. You know. Uh, what is I don't know. I don't know, man. Sometimes I feel like it only contributes to it only makes us more powerless, but it gives us a false sense of like we're doing something anyway.
Yeah, displacement therapy. I often ask myself, yeah, I just say these things thinking I'm doing something. But I think, well, what choice do we have? I mean, the least we can do is say the thing that we believe, and
And
what, and then we ramp it up, I guess. We say it under our real name, we say it again and again to show we mean business and to show that we believe in it, and then we go and challenge other people to test our ideas and our
I
arguments.
think that's where the hope is at. That's where the hope lies, I believe, because it's probably better. It probably is better to get it out there if that's what you feel, that's what you believe, than keep it inside. A lot of people on their deathbed, one of their major regrets, from what I've read, is not not expressing themselves the way that they wanted to in life. So and that's one of the things that kind of keeps me like okay, maybe nobody is gonna read this, maybe nobody cares, but you know what? Me putting it out there, uh, um, it's me putting it out there is better than me not putting. Hey, that's the only reason why. That's the reason why I started going live on my YouTube talking about what I'm doing. I mean, it wasn't for any, but more so just for something to kind of like, hey, at least me, it's something I want to do. Let me just do it, put it out there. At least if I do it, I won't walk around with this sense of feeling like, oh man, what could have been, or maybe I should have. So, and it
Mm.
turned out to be good, get a positive. So yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, hey, it's better to do it than not do it. Just see, hey, what's the it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, and will get engagement just because your message is out there, and somebody can say, "I agree with you," or you're talking rubbish. But there is this hope of opening a channel of communication that might just lead somewhere.
Yeah,
Um, mm. but
but
yes,
now go ahead.
no. Please, you go ahead.
Oh, for me, I actually enjoy where we're at. As much as I complain about social media, and I think that it might be like a plot to kind of do certain things to people and drive them crazy, I do enjoy the engagement from social because I'm probably like borderline a weirdo, so I can imagine 50 years ago, 50 years ago, somebody like myself, I would just be stuck not having anybody to really engage with on certain topics I'm interested in. Whereas, social media, the internet, whatever, gives me a space where I might not have that circle I'm looking for in my personal life, but I'm able to have it elsewhere, which is satisfying to a certain extent.
Yes, I don't know if you've ever heard of this advice. They take when, oh, you feel really bad about something or you feel really angry about someone, and what you should do, they suggest, is write a letter to this person, and then um, don't send it, and just tear it up, but you'll feel better. And um, and I think that is the idea that you've analysed your feelings by being forced to express yourself using words and sentences, and by just the act of doing that means you've kind of analysed the problem, because to find the word to describe your feelings is in a way analysing your feelings, and then hopefully eventually the solution will become clear.
Hmm. Okay, and I see what's going on with that then. Not the it's not really about the writing part is the therapeutic part because you're analyzing was okay, I see that.
Yeah, because if you don't actually express your feelings in words, it just becomes, emotions that stays in our mind, but without being analysed. So it just makes the emotion more uncomfortable, and and not analysed, which can, I don't know, affect our dreams, or affect us at some unconscious level until it's finally expressed.
But can't you just do that verbally? Sometimes I'll be, you know, some people think I'm talking to myself. I guess it is talking to myself. But I swear to God, sometimes I think of certain things that happen. People say something, and I swear to God, I respond out loud to it. Like I don't know, man. Like my boss say something to me. I might not say nothing there because I gotta keep a lid on it. You know, can't I gotta but I'll repeat what she said in my mind and I'll respond the way I wanted to respond out loud.
Mm, mm,
If that makes sense. I do feel better afterwards. I have to tell you, because I can't burn too many bridges at work. Yeah, I only got so many lifelines.
mm,
Only
mm.
some, but so I got to find some type of way to get certain feelings out there, and so I was just saying or trying to see if maybe there's some type of similarities between writing to somebody and then just verbally expressing what you didn't say to their face, but saying behind, almost reliving the going through the conversation again, but with what you would have said. You know what I'm saying? If
Yeah.
that makes
Yeah, yeah, because actually every word we use is an idea,
sense.
and ideas are subject to analysis once you have written them down, because then you can see what they are, and that's why it's so important to read, because then you can go at your own pace to make sure you actually understand the one sentence before you go on to another. And that's why when you listen to an audiobook, it's all right if you can keep up in your mind, but if it's complicated and you want to stop, then you actually have to go at your own pace, which maybe not a lot of people understand, because reading is actually an active activity. Yeah,
That's good.
because you are in the process of understanding the words. Well, if you're just listening, you may be asleep while the audio's going on or whatever.
There's been plenty of times where I wasn't asleep and I just went into outer space and went back to the audiobook and I'm like, what the hell did I just miss? This is and it's not really even worth rewinding. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
And it's like, man, screw this. Audiobooks are only good to confirm what I already have read. You know what I'm saying? Just to kind of like etch it in, or sketch it in my mind a little bit more. Make it more ingrained in my mind. How the thing is verbatim, or the book I'm thinking about is verbatim to where but it doesn't. But yeah, I don't feel like I can actually engage or digest the book from audiobook.
no, no.
So yeah, we talked about that before. But I still have audiobook though. I still are Audible. I'm still a subscriber to Audible, and um, I use it. It's maybe not to indulge in books, but if there's a book I'm interested in buying and Audible has it, Audible has it to where just having a subscription every month, you get 1 credit. Most books are only 1 credit, so you can always get like a book a month. So I have a
What have
few
you been
books.
reading or listening
Uh,
to?
so so I had that Robert Hoyland book on there, uh, the Arabic Islamic Conquest, that Mustafa Akil
Mm.
book. Um, his not his latest one because he came out with another one, but the one Tolerance and Reshaping Muslim Minds or whatever that is. Uh, some other books. What Sex at Dawn? That some other that was an interesting. I listened to the first couple chapters of that. That was an interesting theory on very upside down though on how I would imagine humans were. Um, I have a few books on there. I have quite a few books. I'm trying to remember. Uh, you know, yeah. But I don't. Again, I only use it. I don't really use it to like digest books. Just more so like if I'm trying to, or like if I read something already and I'm trying to like just remember it a little bit better. I'll like refresh my memory. See, audiobooks are nice. Or if a book came out I want to buy, if I got free credits, I'll purchase the book on audio book, listen or Audible, listen to it, see what's up if it's something would like to purchase. But I don't sit there and just listen to books on it though. Like go through a whole book like some people might.
Mm. So what did Robert Hoyland say in his book? Or have you forgotten because you weren't listening?
Yeah, no. So I did go back and reread it. What he said in his book, uh, I mean he has a very interesting take to the Arabic Islamic conquest. He calls it the Arabic Islamic conquest because he believes within a certain period of time it was an Arab thing. But his take on how it unfolded is very interesting, being that he includes a lot of the conquered communities or the communities present in the Middle East at the time. And the book is filled with not only Muslim voices, but the voices of the conquered people, to get a more holistic point of view, because a lot of traditional Muslim history is written from the point of view of the victors, basically the conquerors. And so, a more sound historical approach is collecting all of the historical reports from the conquerors and the conquered. And so I like that approach that he did, and it
What did the
makes
conquered people say about the Muslims who conquered them?
oh it was different. It varied. Um, some people saw the Muslims as liberators, or people who are, came and helped them out, like some Christian communities in the Middle East who were being oppressed by other Christian communities. The Jews. But you have to look into it. You have to see the accounts. I mean, you have Jewish rabbis, talk, oh, this guy, some Muhammad from he's leading. He's a heretical basically. All the reports like from some of them are a bit off. I think some of them are a bit weird because they don't call them Arabs. Like I was reading the Chronicle of what 754. They were calling them Chaldeans. They were calling the Muslims Chaldeans or something like that. Uh, but it's you would have to check out the book. It was a long time. It was like 4 or 5 months ago when I was going through this book. It really wasn't that long ago. But it's definitely it's worth the read. I believe it's worth the read. Now the guy I'm interviewing, or the last guy I interviewed, he has a slightly different take, and he kind of in his book refutes some of Hoyland's premise about it being an Arab uh an Arab thing, because his thing is that Arab identity is a byproduct of Islam, and that nobody self-identified as an Arab before uh the Quran.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Robert Hoyland and some other people are of the opinion that Arab identity started to form um, before the coming of Islam, and Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the icing on the cake, basically the cherry on top, that kind of unified it. So, to be honest, I lean more towards Peter Webb's, the last guy I interview. I lean more towards his theory that it does seem like Arab identity is a byproduct of Islam, just based on how he demonstrates, when you look at pre-Islam, um, there's nobody ethnically, or there's no identifiable Arab community of Arabs, or there's no, it's, I'm not going to go through it all right now. It's some deep. I'm going to lose you if I lay it out all right here, just because I don't have enough time. But his name is Peter Webb. You can find a lot on. I mean, probably if you look on YouTube, my interview with him will come up. But
Mm-hmm.
I think his theory is very interesting, and it totally turns upside down the notion that Islam is an Arab religion. Not saying that it's not an Arab religion, but what do you mean by Arab? Because one thing that I found interesting in his book that I read recently was that the first Arabic dictionary, written in what, like the first century of Islam, it was written early on, I think like the 700s or whatever. To be an Arab was a linguistic marker, that if you spoke Arabic, that was enough to make you an Arab. But then he demonstrates that later dictionaries counseled, um, the whole being an Arab by as a linguistic feature, and made it, gave it a spatial parameter, and also made it your Arab by lineage. And then he goes on to show how a genealogy was then constructed in order to support this Arab lineage. And also found interesting that the collective identity of most Arabians before Islam wasn't Arab, but another identity called Ma'ad. And he shows through pre-Islamic poetry, early Islamic poetry, even through hadith, from non-canonical collections, how, um, the early conquerors, didn't identify as Arab, and that Arab identity came from the Quran calling itself a Arabic or Arabic book. And then you would have it, the way he lays it out is very convincing. I'm just going to say that,
Before Islam, Arabia was just tribal, right? Would it be
yeah,
fair to
and they didn't.
say?
They didn't. Well, South Arabia wasn't tribal like that. They were more. Um, they had something called a shab. I can't. I don't know how you translate a shab, but they weren't tribal. Like they were more. Um, they were more. Yeah, they weren't tribe. They were not
Were they
tribal.
city
Like,
states? Was southern? Is that where Mecca and Medina are? I'm not. I'm a bit vague there.
no, Mecca Medina is in, western, uh, the central western, or in the Hijaz. South Arabia would be more of like Yemen.
Uh huh.
And see, South Arabia and North Arabia are very different. For one, South Arabia pre-Islam, they didn't even call themselves Arabs. The Sabaeans, the Katabanians, the Himyarites, they were not Arabs. If you look at the languages these people spoke, it was not Arabic. And when they started to come in contact with people who some suspect are Arabs as we understand them today. And I'm saying it that way because the what is written about them, or the word they use to describe them, is a cognate of Arab. to describe to that means outsider or or whatever, but not it's this again. This is it's kind of because I feel like I'm leaving things out, and I feel like I'm just going to confuse you by laying this out. But this is a bit new to me. If you look on my Facebook, I've been posting things about it. It's been what I've been. It's something I've been looking into more of lately. So if I'm a bit scatterbrained on what I'm saying, it's just because I'm gathering all the facts myself so I can actually, interview this or do part two of the interview. The first part I got down pretty well, but the second part of the interview is a little bit more, little bit more detailed. If what I'm saying makes sense. But it's an interest. But yeah, no, Arabia was very diverse. It was way more. It wasn't like some pan Arab identity from top to bottom as assumed in tradition. There was a lot more going on in pre-Islamic Arabia than what you would assume from tradition, and that's what made me interested in the topic of trying to actually find out what was happening from an academic sense. I mean, even the term, even calling that place Arabia it's not something that the inhabitants of that of Arabia called it. It came from the Greeks or who called it Arabia.
Uh-huh. The Arabian Nights, was that before or after the Quran?
That was after, right? That was so that was like the during the Abbasid period, like Harun al-Rashid time, I believe.
What?
So, and that's actually the period in which Arab identity was constructed in that ninth slash 10th century um, period.
So they
Where,
had a language, didn't they? I mean, obviously the Quran was written in Arabic. So, it, which city did it emerge from? Mecca, I guess.
okay, but see, the Quran, even if you read the Quran, even the people who even the people who it was revealed to didn't quite understand it. The Quran was not the language of the people that it was revealed to. Um, and I think you would have to look at the features of the linguistic features of Arabia. I believe people were multilingual. What you can say about the Arabic language pre-Islam was that it had zero status. It wasn't a language that was spoken widely in the Arabian Peninsula, and that when the Quran came as an Arabic uh, as an Arabic Quran, it kind of stumped the it kind of and what does Arabi mean in the Quran? When you see Arab, it doesn't connote or denote it doesn't mean an ethnic. It's not talking about an ethnicity. It's talking about some translated as clear speech, or it's a certain idiom or a certain way of speaking. It's very when you get into the language of what the Arabic language, is very rich, and then you start it it's I really wish I'm trying to explain it in a way that you would understand, man. I know you don't like me sending you PDFs, but if you look at if you look at how he kind of goes through it, it's like and then you look at how the Arabic dictionaries from the first Arabic dictionary to the ones that came after it, how or
They
what did
organize their language in a different way
what's up?
after the Quran. Is that what you're saying? That they
Yeah,
organize?
yeah. So I think I believe classical Arabic is different than Quranic Arabic after they kind of code again I'm learning, but yeah, it seems like there was a standardization after the Quran of Arabic, and that certain words that you thought would be like even Arab. What did it mean to be an Arab? If you look at the Arab dictionaries, it's very again like I mentioned one Al Ain, the first Arabic dictionary Al Ain by Al Khalil ibn Ahmed. His definition of what it meant to be Arab was a linguistic feature, and that if you spoke Arab, if you someone who spoke Arabic was an Arab, and someone who didn't, they were an Ajam. But then when you see in a few Arabic dictionaries after his, it changes from being a linguistic feature to an ethnic feature, and given spatial parameters. Someone who is from the Arabian Peninsula and is also Arab by lineage. And then also put the caveat that you can be an Arab even if you don't speak Arabic. And even if you speak Arabic, you can never be an Arab. So you see a shift in what it meant to be an Arab within the first 200 years after Islam.
I guess it's a bit like, well, British or English identity, because I guess English people like to think, oh, you can, anybody can be British, anybody can get a British passport, but not everybody can be English until I guess foreigners came and grew up in large numbers in England, and and I
Yeah,
guess.
you would have this is I mean it's a very interesting theory how all of this came about, how the whole Arabic identity uh, started from the Quran calling itself Arabic, and then the people who were followers of the Quran or memorized the Quran, they started calling themselves Arabic, and then which goes into a debate in academia about the identity of the early conquerors, which you'll find several different theories, some of them more in line with each other than others, such as Peter Webb and Fred Donner, and then some see things differently, such as maybe Jan Resto, however, and Robert Hoyland, and Arab nationalists will definitely disagree. Uh, yeah, so if I may, I'm probably waffling on about this, but I'm hoping to really unpack this stuff on my channel. I'm taking notes, and I've been doing a lot of reading on the subject, and hopefully on my YouTube channel I unpack it in a coherent manner.
About Arab identity, which I
Yeah,
imagine must be fluid.
it's not, and it's not really. It's really more so my interest in pre-Islamic Arabia, more so to understand what was going on in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, because I feel from traditional sources you really don't get that context. And so I just stumbled across, articles and books about the identity of the early conquerors. Fred Donner, his theory is that uh, Islam started as a believers movement, more ecumenical, including Jews and Christians, and then it started to distance itself from Jews and Christians, say in the Umayyad period, and became a distinct religion, whereas early on it had more in common with Jews and Christians and included them in what it, he calls the believers movement, basing it off the Quran, always referring to its audience as "oh you who believe" instead of saying "oh you Muslims" or stuff like that. And Peter Webb shares a similar sentiment as Fred Donner, but saying these people only started identifying uh, as Arabs after Islam, predicating that on the Quran calling itself Arab, and then you got other people who disagree. So uh, if it falls,
Hmm.
and so yeah, all of that just because I'm interested in early Islam, and a lot of and why and a lot of stuff that have came down to us. Uh, you start to see where constructs of scholars doing their best to understand what came before them, but I think we have a lot better scope in 2021 than they did in the medieval period concerning history, especially now that we have archaeology epigraphy, the study of coins, and other sciences that they didn't have available to them. So that's just why. It's not because I'm infatuated with Arabs. I'm trying to be an Arab, but I'm just more so interested in the identity of the early conquerors and how um, the identity we understand to be Muslim, Arab, whatever, came to be. What all that entailed.
Well, I think changes in identity always occur after a revolution or a war. I mean, it's almost inevitable,
I
really.
believe it was careful. If you see how Peter Webb lays it out, it's almost like the early Muslim conquerors carefully did it because even when they conquered towns and cities, they never lived amongst the population, but they set up settlements outside the urban areas or the cities or areas that they conquered, almost to foster that kind of like um, sense of unity and we're all one because the Arabians the early Muslims they came from separate groups. The Yemenis were nothing like the Central Arabians, nothing like the Northern Arabians. You can't say that the Lucamids and the Ghassanids were nothing alike. All these people were not alike. They didn't have no pan Arab identity where they recognized each other as Arabs, and you don't see any traces of that from inscriptions, from pre-Islamic poetry, and even their alliances. I mean, you had the Ghassanids who were aligned with the Romans. You had the Lucamids who were aligned with the Persians. Then you had the South Arabians who were with the Ethiopians. How are they all Arab? They're fighting each other and but yet they recognize each other. You don't see any signs of some pan-Arab unity or recognition of each other as a single ethnicity. Only after Islam do you see this. And even what we understand to be Arab identity, that was a byproduct of Islam, wasn't strictly um, cultures found in the Arabian Peninsula, but incorporated Persian culture and as well and Indian aspects of Indian culture. So, you know, um, yeah.
So it was basically a tribal society, and Islam unified these disparate
No, it was.
tribes.
I get. I mean, I don't. What? Because you have settled people though. Because the Ghassanids, the Lucanids were settled people. The South Arabia were settled people. Um, Now you did have Bedouins in Central Arabia. Um, but I guess all that would still be tried. But then I'm telling you, the way they constructed kin relationships in Northern Arabia was different than how they did it in Southern Arabia.
Right.
And which is another thing that Peter Webb brings up is that because Southern Arabians had a totally different understanding of who they were, how Southern Arabians ended up being part of the genealogical tree that was constructed in the ninth and 10th century is, how did that happen?
Hmm.
Because the traditional theory is that the Arabs came from Southern Arabia, but when you look at the epigraphic record, there's no evidence of any type of Arabic being anybody identifying as an Arab in Southern Arabia, any evidence of Arabic being spoken, not until yeah. So,
Hmm.
but anyway, all this might be over your head. Again, maybe I should have done what I said, talk to you like I would tell to my grandmother,
On
but
Washington. Yes.
because a lot of it's dry, you know, uh, you would have to probably be interested in to kind
Well,
of.
I'm vaguely interested in the formation of national identity, and I suppose I just imagined that it would be quite tribal before, and Islam would have been a unifying force that allowed these different tribes to form nations and eventually empires, because that is the nature of Islam, which is an imperial religion.
Okay, yeah, I know that's what you believe. It's an imperial religion. I think the empire thing was just a consequence,
Well, I
but
suppose I call it that because you know, if you can unify different peoples, then you would. I mean, then it obviously works as an imperial religion. So you kind of try
I
to
think
keep the
I
group
think
as
I think
big as
Arnold
possible.
Toynbee had the. I see what you're saying, but I think Arnold Toynbee probably said it in a little bit palatable manner because Empire people don't want to hear about Empire nowadays. You know what I'm saying? But I think Arnold Toynbee said what you're trying to say in a better manner. If trying to remember exactly, but basically that Islam and Christianity, the reason why they're both so successful is basically for that very reason, but not in a negative sense, but trying to bring everybody under one because he was saying the need with the way the world's going. I mean, he said this like 1960 something. With the way the world is going, there's going to be a need of a more global identity or people seeing or something that kind of can connect. Man, he said he only sees the only two world religions that he sees capable of doing that is Christianity and Islam. So
Yes.
yeah, the balance sheet of time or the balance sheet of history or something like that. That was the lecture he gave at UCLA. I think 1967.
Right. Right. I'll look that up. Well, thank you very much, Tehran, for
No
gi-
problem. I really wish I came prepared. I thought you were gonna like educate me on this stream, but I guess I had to do the educating
well,
myself.
because I was going
Uh,
to say, did you detect any Quranic echoes from the speech, and that was kind of what I had in mind, rather than, um, you know, but maybe.
well, actually, it's probably better that I didn't read it and you said this to me because now I kind of know what to look for. Because if I had to read it on my own, I wouldn't have. I would have just been like, "What the hell am I reading this for?" You know,
Right.
I would have not known what I'm looking for. But now I know to try to see. Because I can be kind of dense at times. If you don't hold my hand a little bit, I can be kind of like you know. But okay, so I'll definitely do that, and we can reconvene. I have no problem.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to.
When you read it carefully, and then you can say, "Oh, I didn't detect anything at all," or "I did," or whatever. But yeah, yeah, that would be great.
Okay, no problem. It's always good talking to you, especially instead of on message. Sometimes you can get on my. I'm not gonna say you get on my nerves on message, but a lot is lost in translate. A lot is lost in text message. I don't. I can't. You can't get some what is how because again, talking to you is different than messaging. Is I.
Yes, yes, I can imagine it all sounds cold and
It
whatever.
does. It
So
does. It does. I don't know. It does. I feel bad because I know you're a good person. It's just, yeah, the way some people type can be. I think I'm one of those people, so don't feel bad. I
no,
think I trigger people by the way I type too. It's too stern to the point.
yes, yes. All right then. I hope. Well, we can speak before too long. When is your next stream? Your next major interview? Shall we say?
Uh, well, yeah, November 5th,
Uh huh.
and then I'm probably gonna it's the whole interviewing thing kind of slowed down. Um, I think because I've reached out to a wide variety of people. I've tried to clear up this notion that I only reach out to academics and look, they're the only ones that have been responding. I've reached out to more traditional scholars, other people and I don't even get at least with some of these academics, some of them are straight up, hey, look, I only go on academic platforms set up by academic institutions. And if you come with something like that, I'll be more than willing. But, they at least email you back with one of those. But some other people, man, outside of the academic world, they won't even just send you a no. So, but no, so yeah, November 5th. But see, I plan on doing more because my whole thing about live streaming was more so to engage with my audience, um, and to create content that they're interested in. And I really enjoyed that in the past, but I think I got in my feelings a little bit too much on the live streaming thing. So I'm probably gonna try to start that back up, but have a little bit more of an echo chamber, not so free. Not anybody can just jump on because I don't want Yeah. Anyway, I'm not gonna go on.
I found out, it's like those like were your best dreams, all that shit talking about it. So
I know, but
it's
I don't want it. I don't want it to just be about we. There's enough platforms out there
I know.
where you can do that, and I
I'm
think
just after cheap entertainment, really.
it could be that too. It could be that too. But I think you got a good message. I'm trying to do what I'm doing. I just don't want our stuff to be cheapened by back and forth bickering.
Yeah, yeah. Well, were you pleased about Jordan Peterson and Mohammed Hijab in their forthcoming exchange?
I think that's a lie. I don't. Is he really? Is Muhammad Jab really going on
Well,
there?
I don't know. I thought it was you who told me. Maybe it was somebody else. Or yeah,
No,
maybe it was just a joke.
Mustafa Akil, they recorded that,
Right.
which you should. I'm telling you, man, and I'm wrong too. I should have jumped. I should have jumped on him when he wasn't even popular. Now that he gained a bit of notoriety lately, it's like he's too big to talk to small folks now. He was going on people's streams that only get 100 views after a whole year. You know what I'm saying? But now it's like, damn, man, I should have reached out. But no, I think the Muhammad Hijab thing is all cap. I think he's lying. I think he's doing it. Because yeah, I don't because look, Jordan Peterson ain't said nothing about it.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson on his Twitter tell you when he's recording with people, when he got upcoming stuff. He didn't say nothing about that.
Yeah, because I was a bit surprised, I must
He said
say.
something about the Hamza Yusuf interview long time ago, and they haven't even done it yet. So I think Muhammad Hijab is just a promoter.
Right. Well, it says it's on the
So,
8th of November anyway. So, and that'd be filming. Oh, I don't know.
and
Anyway.
you're gonna see him reacting to something Jordan Peterson said, and the whole world. Oh, I'm hoping it's not that because I actually like Muhammad Hijab, but but I think his antics can be a little too much,
Yes. Yes.
and I think this is one of them that we're about to see.
Uh huh. Oh well.
Yeah. But hey, Jordan Peterson, I'm glad he bounced back though. Um, Ben Clonazepam, Benny's, yeah, they're no joke. And I definitely saw the effects of somebody who was clonazepam and uh and to be honest, I
He
think if he
became
was
addicted to prescription drugs like Michael Jackson. Is that the story? When he was ill.
he was taking them Ben knows I don't know how to say it. He was taking clonazepam basically. He was
Right.
saying, yeah, I don't know if you know what clonazepam
I
is.
don't. Not really.
Okay, so I believe that's the reason why he got to where he was at because them things take the anti-anxiety pills,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't have it removes anxiety. I mean, a lot of us walk around with a healthy dose of anxiety. It stops us from doing so, it filters. You take one of them things. I took one because look, my ex-wife, her father-in-law, a brain injury from the military.
Mm-hmm.
And he was prescribed them and he didn't like them.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember me young, 19, I was like, what the hell is this? He's like, he's like anti-anxiety, took one. Man, I went to work. I was in sales at an auto place. Man, I sold all type of shit that day. Not having no, I don't. It was the weirdest feeling. Then I did some research on it. Like, man, what the hell is this? And then I found out, it deteriorates your brain. It's really not good for you. And that's why you see when Jordan Peterson was off it, he was like talking like that and acting like that because it kind of messes up your coordination. Uh, yeah, man, all type of bad stuff. But after doing a fair share, and I think a lot of people don't know this about me as well. But at one point, I took a couple of semesters at the local community college to be a drug rehabilitation counselor.
Mm-hmm.
So in there, we learned about it as well. And yeah, man, I attribute that to his rise to star power. If he was really taking them things and going out in lectures and I could see him having a sense of confidence. The anxiety's not there. and he's able to just really steal the show because he's like fearless at that point. But yeah, that's just my spiel. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a doctor. Sorry, sorry, that's my rant. I'll let you go.
Well, thanks for keeping us updated, and yeah, let's talk again soon when we're good and ready, and yeah.
I do have one. What's the comment section looking like? I remember you have a tough crowd. Are they
Um,
still?
yeah, it's sort of quite lively. I haven't been reading it, but
Okay,
yeah,
I guess it's probably better.
enthusiastic posting. Conops is there, Stephen James is there. Yeah,
I actually think
and
about kind of the
probably
other day.
and it's posting nothing related to what we've been talking about.
Okay, cool, cool. I was thinking about Conops the other day, man, because he motivated me to kind of uh continue to reaching out to people to interview and stuff like that. So, I like to you were a catalyst too. I actually think you, Palu, you guys got me started with the live streaming thing.
Yeah, how is Palu?
He's doing his thing. Still, I think he's still mad at me. But we're cordial. But him and Jen did a um Buddhism, Islam, finding common ground series.
Is there anything any common ground?
That was the interesting thing about that series is that they didn't find any common ground. They came apart. They came away, I don't think, seeing like, okay, Buddhism is in line with Islam or Islam is in line with Buddhism. But I found that to be the best part of it, that it wasn't no wishy-washy. I believe they were objective. They didn't go into it trying to characterize the two things as something they're not. They read the book, they finished the book, they debated, talked about it. I thought it was good for Palu. I feel he can be a bit dogmatic when I see. I don't believe Palu to be dogmatic in essence, but in the face of opposition, I believe he can entrench himself uh, in an unhealthy manner. But seeing him engage with her and other people from the Dharmic religion come and question him and lightweight debate with him and him kind of keep his cool. I can see evolution, learning how to deal with differences in a more cordial manner, So I think it was good for both of them, but I still think Jen is lightweight as Islamophobe. It might have been like lightweight kind of. I don't want to say using. I don't want to say that because I think she was being genuine. You know what I'm saying? But I can't figure her out, man. People from the Dharmic not people from the Dharmic background, they're hella mad at Aurangzeb. They're mad at the Mughals. So I don't. So
Yeah, I suppose what I think they're about is that they think there's too many rules. It's so horrible having so many rules, and and I guess that's their problem, really. They're saying, we don't need that many rules, kind of thing. But you think of, Buddhist civilization, it hasn't, achieved as much as civilizations with organized religion, maybe. But
I
it's
don't.
hard to tell.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you might be right about that. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I would have. I don't know too much about the Dharmic religions. Like I almost became a Buddhist, or I was interested in Buddhism at one point before Islam. But
Yeah. I mean, I come from that kind of background, so
I needed something with. I actually needed something with more rules. That was.
yes.
I was already like a lawless, so I needed to bring it in. I couldn't stay in that state. So, but yeah, Claire, I'm gonna let you go because it's late on my
Yeah.
part. It was good talking to you.
All right then.
Peace, everyone.
Okay. Thank you to Ron. Take
Oh
care.
yeah, no problem. Anytime,
All
anytime. You
right.
too.
Good night.